OKFM 101.7.
24 minutes after 8, live on OK 101.7 FM. Adiachi Bia. Honorable Clement Apaak Discloses South. Emrashe Bedjani. Last Parliament na Koya Ansana Fufuri Bay. I dissolved on the 6th of January 2026. Now, a member, dear Quaterpa Parliamentary Select Committee. Titu Nkrabatana Ghana Women's so a kama year to year. No. Now, the minimum committee was to be on Munyan Media. Honorable Martin.
Kwalamo Osofo, Major so, Michia, 1 pound for. Michia Tifu in a Michia Ghana for Mutie. Titu, Mentaso for Bulsa for. More Bulsa South, and Ghana Penina, Obiati, okayfm, Bulsa Mena, Mapusua Mena Soluk. My chair idea. Yeah, Parliament. What's happening? Ya saba ya bwabwa ya wankasa. The 3 committees and so far Juma. Committee on Selection, Appointments Committee, any business committee. Na meka Committee of Selection no. As the days go by no. Leadership would make their proposal on membership to all the other committees. Na yashisheni na pepefe. Enti yeguswa juma dia. Juma dia sai. Woman who see a home committee ni who any idea was yeni edi echirenti yegusu ndende.
Honorable na ucheche na anzo refi baku Dog Meat Eaters Association.
When I say global, no, me a global president. And I mean, I'm born of Basa. What I don't know, Swaba. I'm the live global president.
I do doing one area.
Remember, what's why I would hear my turn South Beono. I'll continue to be the president. Some support base, is in China, and the Chinese population is very big.
Wow.
So open and be you cannot overthrow me. Because who got African, China may be big too.
I see.
China here.
Wonderful.
Now,
Ono bia said that son of Padaja when you say on near Chukum. Now, where dear, and son, baby, I sent Panasano. Nanu fear the Wadama, no one Rasebefee.
Friday night, may assignment be Kaka.
Okay.
Oh, say students would be on one sem now, dear. The chief of staff, Zebra. And then you have it, and then they are moving food to all the schools. We were doing a review meeting at the office of the president. So I was at the office of the president. Because
I know Friday it's been gathered for about 30 minutes now. Speaker suspended sitting. As I say, minority for protest be a woman over election violence now. Adajeni poso. Now where the mami misaka kra wo hwe minority a war parliament abre ya so moni so ahyi wana
nukwa na eba kope mi say the abatwo no ekoye no sisa omunyaye abrimo muniso they are still in a state of shock obonibeka trying to recover. That is the way I see it. Because the is not sustainable. Ujidipa said they can do this for 4 years. It's impossible. I think that it is a phase that they are going through. They want to go from 137 plus 1 to 98. And I said, Oma be omonya minority keke o. Oma be minority nketen.
And I'm a brofo micro minority no.
Almost a brofo no ti apede kan twi. We don't use macro. Ubetina your boys, young ones no. No, minority nketen. And I think it's appropriate. And I know that me did say issue. They are still trying to come to terms with Obonibeka reality about what has happened. Because Obiso Munina Ubiase now on that answer that yet said they see a bit messy. But Mumpeni Fokra will be a Canadian. Omojana Secretary Kwase a spiritual. That the defeat was a spiritual issue. And then you can see that the fraternity, the entity as a party and Kasano, they are in a state of disarray. That is how colossal this defeat has been in terms of its effect on them. I understand. They are going through stages, but at some point, what our finest level will stabilize in Parliament. Together for Munyabutre, let's indulge them. They will stabilize.
I see.
The way I can't say this year, they are face war. I'm not thinking kitty. Half a cry a bit near to a Munjuma. Full force on the cry and co. Until we need to sympathize with them to some extent. But I'm also in them now. I'm going to recover because Ghana for Juma Amodi I share in some and Juma Kitwa. We don't have much time to waste. We need to get going. That's what I can say about the current state of the minority in Parliament.
Yeah, no, Honorable Clement Apaak, Busa South, and Rasibe Jenny, and Etchun Komoi. Honorable, we've been told to say, Abai Amakwai, say, and 24 women that's in high schools, and no, 1 woman Tinsu Jum, Kodija, Tony and the Pa, as for Muniaman Kwadai, and yet the I spy, and crab to me dinner, woman young one day, at the Asian. Is that the case?
Kwame, I say Katadi Betoja, and a free Ghana education service. Now, so can Kaya, Ghana education service, they make reference to a letter from the ministry, former leader, Ministry Education. So, government has given the go-ahead and also approval for heads of our secondary schools, to be able to procure emergency food items. Thereby, and it's first years now. I buy a free share charge kitty say Wamama and Korano school on the 3rd of January. Abra Wamunya in Shishaye according to Charles, no. And Korano buy who say be and Abai exercise. The new government clearly had to deal with an emergency situation because the previous government and Akufo-Addo Bawumia had not made provision for the year 1 students that they compelled Charles to allow to report on the 3rd of January. And it is part of that challenge that prompted His Excellency the President to make the announcement during the Thanksgiving service. UPS, said there were some food items, including rice, that he had instructed the Chief of Staff, Joe Debra, Minipa Jodi, that he should ensure that some of those food items, some of that rice was immediately dispatched to the various schools as a short gap measure. Because Debra, as you know, he put together a small committee. Yours truly have been part of it, with representatives from the Ministry, Ghana Education Service, Ghana TVET Services, any Office of the President, and a Parliament, my boss, Honorable Nochu. So we have been working on these issues, both making sure that President's directive through the Chief of Staff, the rights will get to the schools, and that we will look at what we needed to do as part of the further instructions to address the immediate challenges to do with food, given the fact that the previous government did not make provision before the year ones came to school. So the one leg has been going on, and I think we are almost about to conclude on that. Some 139,000 bags of rice you move through the military trucks, Ghana Police Service, and some private transporters. The beginning said within this week, since that is being supervised by the Flagstaff House, we'll get a report, because as of last week, I know that Eastern, Greater Accra, Central, Upper East, many regions have received their share of that rice. But the feeding needs of the students go beyond just rice. They have to procure other food items, perishables, tomatoes, and then even the non-perishable food items, So on list now, they have 18 food items. You have maize, you have soya bean, you have beans, gari numone, or they say, cichre numone, and so forth. So the reason why government thought it wise to do what had happened was to give an immediate relief or intervention for the schools to be able to stay open, for the students to be able to get decent food to eat, whilst government then works out a more permanent arrangement going forward. And it's a Abeto Jana Samatia and say Abai Amesika Amakwine say heads of our secondary schools, they should procure agent food items needed to feed our students for the next for 2 weeks. Then I think after that, government has arrangements to either repeat or to vary the current arrangement. A temporary measure. But I think going forward, once we now have a minister in place, a very capable one at that, I'm in say, me am a leader. I'm in from our days in Commonwealth. Meaning say, obit me aye. Yes, so you're to be able to sustain and improve the free senior school program as promised by His Excellency during the 2024 campaign. And this is what has been going on. In addition to the rice, provision has also been made for the health to be able to procure emergency food items to feed our wards in the various secondary schools.
As much as we want to believe, so we're interim measure be abino aimed at addressing challenges of FAC feeding situation where public secondary institutions. But Honorable, is it going to be the modality a yɛde be feeding kwada no said ebi esusu se yen na buffer stock na dear ben nanka we no hurt na as we used to do omunye tunya ne man kwada yi.
You know that this is an issue that many wedding komoache ho. You know my position on that. I've always been of the opinion say we need to go back to say the net here and sign up policy by centralizing BBA to do the feeding of the students. Maybe GD pass I don't know what. And so during the campaign and so on, you notice that it featured prominently. Your flag bearer, now president, he also spoke about it. And you don't be surprised that you are seeing signals. But the reason why I'm saying that what we are doing is temporary, and they say all of these things were happening post the minister. Until once we now have a minister in place, he will now sit down and look at what we put in our manifesto and work towards converting the manifesto promises into policies, so that we will have a full-blown policy laid out for everyone to know who will do what, when, and how. And that will require a much more engaging meeting or two. So what I say. But you are right that the expectation is that we would decentralize the feeding arrangements, so that it will be buffer stock that is going to be in charge the way it has been in the past. So I think the processes are ongoing. And if anyone had a doubt, Megidi said what the office of the president has decided to do in terms of this interim arrangement, should be a signal that things are going to change. The previous arrangements clearly would not hold sway going forward.
I see. Honorable Dana, minimum that if you are privy to feeding no chichemu with regards to a day, their border beer ya day mano and more day students and so.
The documentation available.
Mm-hmm.
And look, let's be honest. It is now that some of us are getting to know the true state of affairs in the Ministry of Education and in many other ministries. And it's not to veer off in but early the past, my penny, John the man and Mama. I'm a dear true fellows of Osukwachi, the acting spokesperson, soon to be confirmed as the veteran, that every ministry, department, and agency, we are going to be waiting to see what we came to meet. Because quite a number of course will be a time. There was a lot of things that was held away from the public and even from members of parliament in terms of the way things were done. Do you know that in the entire lifespan of Free High School, you call a transition committee meeting as a subcommittee in social sector education? When we ask for reports, annual reports on the implementation of the Free High School policy, the previous government could not produce one. They didn't have a report. Just imagine that. Not even one single report coming. How do you implement a program of this magnitude? Our budgetary allocations to the program to implement the policy over the period, 15.5 billion Ghana cedis. Out of the media review budgets, the last one that was presented before this government exited. Amin Anta told us that government has expended 9.9 billion Ghana cedis on the policy, and yet the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government do not even have one report to show for it or to pass on to the new government. How can that be possible? So as we say today, we don't fully know whether the quantum of money government claims to have spent to implement the policy, I mean, we don't know. I have filed questions and asked questions to Foriata, then to Educhum, before that to Napo. Sir, here may a breakdown of the expenditure. Because free, no, it does not cover elective textbooks. It only covers core textbooks. Other issues like boarding, like feeding, library fees, ICT fees. And let me decide. I said, look, give us a breakdown annually. How much do we spend on boarding, on feeding, on library fees? All these years. Say me who sa breakdown no. And it's a so there's a lot that we need to make public. Say that they are Ghana for the who they are, they are better here. No man, ye dear see I am Sikadi Akodi de Bia Niseko, Yama Bebe Wawa, and was a drama buying yet to me edituka. I'm not gonna phone because if we don't do that, sooner or later, these same people who have done all of this, they will start blaming us for their infractions, their omissions and commissions. About your fault.
I see.
And that is a sad situation. It's beginning to look as though what I've narrated in terms of the education sector, no, we are hearing similar stories in every other sector. And that is why I'm saying that your mama must be commended for giving the signal that ministers, heads of departments and agencies, everyone would be required to do a thorough analysis of what you have inherited and make it public so that the Ghanaian people will know what was left behind and the damage that has been caused to this country. It is colossal. It is worse than we thought.
I see.
But just before I let you go, no, you will notice that minister has also given a signal. But one of the key things that His Excellency talked about during the campaign is also the national conference to review Ghana's education. Minister has also indicated that plans are being worked on. He has even hinted that it is likely to be somewhere in February. And I think it is very important because the education sector now, the challenges are from basic all the way to the university level. It will be a very, very important national conference for all stakeholders to come together so that we can see what we need to do as a nation in terms of resetting our educational system. I'm an ass from Faswa a chain and Faswa Yano. Eddie Aboyana. And you wanted a dorsum, but we did pass John Amani Mahama and the team that he's putting together. Definitely the signals we are seeing so far should give Ghanaians a lot of hope, but we need Ghanaians to support the effort. Our government alone cannot do it. Damage, you know, and yet a buying quiet to me and repairs are damage, you know. It is colossal. And if you Ghanaians should be prepared to call out those who are responsible. To be better to say, hey, they are hunting me. Which hunting? I mean, when you're before, why should anyone hunt you? But if you are a witch, you want to be hunted. So if you are not a witch, you have no reason to worry. And it's a one soon now. Now, why are you afraid? Because there must be accountability. Accountability, because we can't pretend as if nothing has happened. We can't pretend as if no damage has been done. We can just move on. Those who are saying we should just move on, how can we just move on? There must be accountability. I don't know about Sudria for the current government and the current ruling party. But if we sweep everything out of the carpet, then when are we going to start being responsible citizens, holding each other accountable, and doing what is required in the interest of the good people of this country? Look, the bane of this country is the educated elite. And you will say, wow, oh, we could ask you. I don't know what to mean sign a contract. It is a road contract, any as a for. How these are the people who are educated? Our taxpayer, I think people are called for Aswakaya. I'm waiting for your scholarship. Your school, I can see it, I get degrees. I was saying, this item, the other boy and crop for. You may a quenya. Now you are young when you do your sister won't. They are one on a fat. That they are my only a bussy for. I mean, how can you run a nation like that? So there must be accountability.
Honorable Mobile, getting into 3 weeks. Momonia challenges be especially from heads of schools and now.
In terms of secondary schools, I think the major issue now in Korano, I remember that the heads of the conference of the heads of assisted secondary schools, CHAS, they made contact with the office of the chief of staff. And Julius Ebradier, or a people person. And he immediately granted them an audience. Myself and Honorable Ochu were invited to that meeting. But even before that, he had met with the Guard Education Service and then the ministry, chief director, to speak to the same issues. But he felt that it was important to directly hear from headmasters, Omukuono. So he engaged them as well. And the issue had to do with the feeding arrangements and the fact that the previous government owes arrears, a big cry all the way back to 2021. And the fact that provision was not made for the current year ones now, Omoko school on the 3rd of January. So these were the immediate issues, and these are the ones that are being addressed. So I believe, sir, for now, it looks like the needful is being done, even as government is looking at medium to long-term measures. Also looking at the National Conference on Education. Because all of these matters, basic education, secondary education, tertiary education, technical and vocational training, everything to do with education will be discussed at this conference. Well, we need to get we need to get some synergy. So there should be some synergized system that we should have in a way that would address our current challenges and prepare the youth for the immediate and future, and also to become globally competitive. Because these days, coding in for You don't have to wait to get to secondary school to teach students coding, information technology, and then as for we can begin at the basic school level. I think that the conference will be able to address all of these issues. So at the end of the day, Ghana as a nation, you know, say the beer, this year, air cono, you for so, you dear, and the so. So I think the coming conference will be very, very important one for us as a republic, under the leadership of His Excellency, supported by his Minister for Education, Haruna Idrisu, and the rest of us in Parliament.
Honorable, but that's in a way the say after Eneya Yakasei, head of school Bia or Baba Bonte, Abekase, and Omuni Adriane, and dear Natchez, Abrona Wobo, are buying any school crown, right?
Oh no, the can't say I don't know. Because, say, let an I buy, say, I buy. I'm a penny, say, Yama was critical food items based on their own list. Say, Abetoja. I think sometime last week, Felix Ofosukwachi, he made a public statement, which I know to be true, that government had released slightly above 200 million Ghana cedis to address this issue. And this is in addition to the rice. If any headmaster has an issue, then maybe rice, that one they can let me know, and I'll call the contact person to find out what is going on. Because I know that the food items are moving, and that the funds are not at the presidency. The funds went to the Ministry of Education for onward disbursement to the schools. I'll be surprised. If there is any challenge, it cannot be from government. Not within this period that we are talking about.
I see.
Yeah, no.
Now, most idea now, and Crawford Montiasi was say, all this wine, buffer stock, to almost distribute Adriania. Military account, but the mobile, they're not military account, they're not so good, no be Adriana.
Oh, well, sir, Adriana, a war that. And the other say, be a buy for toy. Na Adriana, and say, Abandada no a cry, a more any a bro. Sir, Nkaya Bechiche Ama, if we are for or free the Savannah Ecological Zone, the geographic north. The American is kind of north, and now be so Apaak free north, Haruna free north, baby, Haruna free northern region, Apaak free upper east region. Ayarga free upper east region, Bukari free northeast region. They are no mark and a trace north. North is not an ethno-linguistic or political designation, a geographic enclave designation. The northern part of Ghana has 6 regions. Southern part of Ghana, it includes Ashanti all the way to Accra, to Cape Coast, even to Volta. So technically, if we have to say Southness, it includes all of these groups. So if we say Northness, it includes all of these groups. I'm raising this issue because it has become very topical, especially in the face of these
appointments.
Jostling for appointments and as we need to be fair. You cannot use a geographic designation to represent a political enclave when it suits you, and then you do the opposite in another geographic enclave. If we are going to brand everybody who comes from the Savannah Ecological Ecotone and Northerner, then we should also brand everyone who comes from the opposite direction. The rainforest, middle belt, rainforest, coastal zone, This is the geographic south. So they are also all southerners. And it is very important. Because it's not right.
I see.
And we ought to get this right. It has worried me. I've made this statement on many platforms. But deliberately, people choose to do that for political expediency, and we ought to stop it and be honest. There is nothing like he is from the north. If there is he is from the north, then he is also from the south. If there are northerners, there are southness. And if the south is a composition of different regions, so is the north. It is not one region. It is a composition of several regions with different ethnicities, languages, traditions, and cultures. And as an archaeologist with a focus on ethnoarchaeology, the bigger anthropology, I can give you the details of how diverse groups inhabiting the geographic north are. You really cannot think that a Busa man is the same as a Dagomba man or a Mampushi man. That cannot be. Then again, coming back to education. If any headmaster has any complaint, I will be interested to hear the complaint, because Mijidipa said what we have done is sufficient to address the issue, whilst government is looking at medium to long-term ways of resolving these intermittent challenges to do with food supply.
Honorable Clement Apaak, Busa South, and Rasibe Jenny, and a Chichin Komoi, and Yababe Drew Simabako, Apanon Kron.
OKFM 101.7.